In this video, I'll be describing the 3 adult levels of the lectical scale. These are the levels we regularly see in performances on our adult assessments. Lectical assessments are designed to support what we call robust learning, learning that is deep and broad enough to support a lifetime of learning and development. All lectical assessments measure 2 core indicators of robust learning: complexity and coherence. To learn more about coherence, see our Measuring Robust Learning video. Here, I'm going to focus exclusively on complexity, which we measure on the lectical scale. The lectical scale itself is best thought of as a refinement of Harvard professor Kurt Fisher's skill scale, which has 13 levels, starting with 0, and runs from birth through adulthood. We're going to be focusing on levels 10 through 12, which are the levels of adulthood. In level 10, which usually gets underway in our teens, people gradually build a reasonable understanding of many important science, mathematical, and social concepts, and learn to apply these concepts in real-world contexts. For example, leaders performing in the upper reaches of level 10 are able to make a connection between being accessible and maintaining good relationships with subordinates, or between the motives of a supervisor and her decision-making behavior. Based on what we've learned so far, we think about 40% of North American adults develop into level 11. In this level, adults, especially those with good learning skills, gradually develop the ability to identify and work with systems of relations between multiple variables. In practical terms, this means they are increasingly able to see and work with complexity, uncertainty, ambiguity, and change. By the way, a little bit of growth in level 11 goes a long way. For example, the difference between the skills needed in a typical mid-level management position and a position at the next level is only about 1/5 of a level. A few highly motivated and talented individuals with an intense love of learning continue to develop beyond level 11 and into level 12. Usually, development into level 12 requires building deep expertise in at least 2 knowledge areas. This is because the kind of ideas that emerge in level 12 result from connecting multiple complex bodies of knowledge. Einstein did it with the theory of relativity, which integrated mathematics and theoretical physics. Maria Montessori did it with a new way of educating children that integrated medicine, developmental psychology, and teaching. And Steve Jobs did it with Apple by successfully integrating technology, design, and marketing. You can think of developmental levels as a series of steps in building up a vast interconnected neural network. It's a process that allows us to embrace increasingly broad and nuanced perspectives on ourselves and others, on our work, and on the world. If you've ever used a fancy camera, you'll know what I mean by using a wide-angle lens. When we use a wide-angle lens, we make it possible to take in more of the scene before us. Similarly, as our minds develop, we're able to perceive, understand, predict, and influence more of the internal and external world. Let's see how this looks when we break the adult levels down into 4 zones. The first adult zone, with scores between 10.5 and 10.9, is called advanced linear thinking. In this zone, we already have a fairly wide view compared to the much more restricted views of earlier levels. Typically, the focus in this zone is on small groups: my family, my team, my clique, my tribe, or individuals with particular personalities, skills, attitudes, habits, or points of view. In early systems thinking, between level 11 and 11.4 on the lectical scale, our ability to relate variables in a nonlinear way makes it possible to widen the view a little more. In this phase, we tend to see individuals and groups, which include teams, communities, and organizations in general, in terms of complex sets of qualities, roles, and kinds of relationships. In advanced systems thinking, between 11.5 and 11.9 on the lectical scale, our increasing capacity to identify interrelationships among variables allows us to widen the view even further. We're now able to see how the qualities of groups affect their interactions with one another and with the larger systems in which they are embedded. Finally, in early principles thinking, between 12.0 and 12.4 on the lectical scale, the view widens again as we distill a few broad principles that can be used to guide our thinking about things like the multiple dynamic organizational and social systems that form marketplaces, economies, and societies. So, each zone of adult development gives us the opportunity to perceive, understand, predict, and influence more of the internal and external world. And if we learn robustly, we can make it possible to stay on this developmental journey through most of our lifetime. Lectical level is a strong predictor of competence, one of the strongest in the learning sciences. In our hands, it's also the core of an approach to assessment that not only measures competence, but efficiently supports its development. That's it for our quick look at adult lectical levels. You can learn more about lectical assessments on our YouTube channel.